Sessions are scheduled instances of instructor-led training events. After you create an event, you can create as many sessions for that event as you need. First click ILT, then Manage Events and Sessions, and search for the event for which you'd like to create a scheduled instance. You can search for your event by name, subject, vendor, or locator number. Click View Sessions to see a list of any sessions that might have been scheduled for that event. Create a new session by copying and modifying an existing session. You can also create a session from scratch. However, if your portal has enabled the ability to configure multiple providers for an event, you might see multiple vendor options. Create new sessions using the current provider or various providers. The Schedule Wizard lets you create multiple sessions at one time using a recurring model. For example, if you're scheduling weekly sessions for a new hire orientation training, you can choose weekly and pick a day of the week that your session should take place. In the duration area, you can decide on a range of dates during which the session will recur. Or you can choose a finite number of sessions after which the session will stop appearing on the calendar. The Part Schedule lets you schedule the date, time, location, and instructor for your session. Parts refer to whether your session occurs over one day or spans multiple days. A session that occurs on a single day has only one part. A session that lasts 2 days would have 2 parts. If you entered multiple parts into the scheduling wizard, simply enter your part information for the first day and save it. The system automatically copies the information down to the remainder of the parts. You can verify and edit any information on the summary step. Both the name and description fields are visible to your users when they register for your session. You can name your part in the name field, which will default to the number 1. You can add a description to your part in the description field. If the session is not being conducted virtually, location is a required field and tells the end user where the session is being conducted. Choosing a location is important because the selection you make will be visible to users during the registration process and displayed on the event calendar. Locations can also be included in a variety of ILT emails like ILT session roster confirmation and session start date. When you select a location, the facility details screen will open, displaying an option to require a confirmation for the facility. If you check this box, the session will be in a tentative status and invisible to users until the owner of the facility confirms it's available. Leave this box blank if you don't plan to manage facilities through the system, or you don't want to require a location confirmation. Click Done. Next, add an instructor. If this field is pre-populated, then the instructor was selected on the session defaults page when creating the event. Click the Add Instructor link to see the list of instructors associated with your event. If you select the Confirmation Required checkbox, the instructor's availability must be confirmed before the session moves to an approved status and is visible to users. If this box is checked and grayed out, the Require Confirmation option has been set on the instructor profile and must be approved before becoming visible to users. Click Done to close the instructor details page. Choose the start and end dates for your session. If you like, you can add a part break to specify lunch and other breaks so that the system accurately counts the actual hours spent training. If you're creating a single part session, click Save Part to save your start and end dates and times and any part breaks. Or click Save and Add New Part to add additional parts or days to your session. The part schedule summarizes the selections you've made up to this point. Use check conflicts to have the system check the other ILT sessions for any location conflicts. Click Next to move to the Details page. The Session Details page lets you define the session registration and enrollment process for your learners. You might find some of the fields already populated. This information is filtered down from the event. You can decide how many levels of approvals are required for a user to be approved to register for the session. If a number is entered here, it will override the required training approvals in the user record. If left blank, the required training approvals will default to the number of required training approvals in the user record. You can set attendance and registration rules like whether advance registration is allowed for those users on the interest tracking list, the registration deadline, and the minimum and maximum registration values. If the preferences have been enabled, you can also make enrollment decisions that restrict enrollment to a maximum number of students who can enroll from certain OUs or groups. You can also allow or disallow waitlists for your sessions and set up options for how the waitlists function. For example, you might allow users to be automatically granted waitlist openings based on a first-come, first-served basis, and have the system automatically place them in a registered status. You can also use this screen to associate the costs that have been set up in the ILT Preferences page to the session, as well as specify withdrawal penalties and refund terms. Configure any prerequisites, pre-work, or post-work you'd like your students to complete. QR codes provide an alternative option for attendance tracking using up-to-date technology. Learners can sign in by scanning a session QR code using their Cornerstone app, or instructors can scan the user's unique QR code on their My Account page or Cornerstone app. Activation time for the QR code addresses the window of time that students can successfully scan the QR code to mark their attendance. For example, if the instructor only wants to allow students to mark their attendance with the QR code for the first 15 minutes of the session, the fields would be set to 15 minutes after part starts. The QR code will be inactive for learners outside of this 15-minute time frame. However, instructors and administrators have unlimited access to the QR code to access. Once you're done configuring the Details section, click Next. Session availability defaults to the availability that you set at the event level. You can change the availability for your session on this screen. You can also use the checkboxes to change the pre-approve, register, register upon approval, and training request form options. Once your availability is set, click Next. Use emails to communicate session information to end users. Use the system defaults or customize the emails that your students and instructors will receive. The No Emails option should only be selected when they do not want emails sent to any users. Click Next. If you're not planning to charge for your instructor-led training session, you can skip the pricing and training units section altogether. If you are planning on charging, this page gives you the options to set the current active price, plan for price changes with future pricing, or even archive pricing with the historical pricing option. Click Next. Training units are a virtual currency that employees and customers can use to purchase training. If training units are enabled, the Training Unit section lets you configure how those units will be valued or whether you can use them at all for this session. Click Next. Use the Summary page to review information for both the event and session. The Schedule section displays a batch creation of sessions based on the Scheduling Wizard step. It's important to double-check the dates and times, plus verify that there aren't any conflicts. Click Save to save the session. Your session is added to the list of sessions for your event.